quarter column in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Otherwise, I don't take the ad.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's see, what else is there for me to clean up around here? Yeah? Well, Mrs. Eustace, how are you?
I called because I wanted to know how much you charge for a trip to Windsor on Friday.
Friday for Windsor. The camp for the underprivileged boys.
Yes. You see, I wanted to charter one of your buses to take some of the boys to camp.
Oh, yes. Well, in that case, I couldn't make any charge. No, if it's for charity. No, Ms. Eustace. Not a penny. No, just expenses. I want to do everything I can for those dear little fellas. After all, I was an underprivileged kid myself once.
Like most people, law enforcement officers take a great deal of pride in their work. And when a case is solved, the man responsible for its solution has the personal satisfaction of a job well done. Not only because he has brought a lawbreaker to justice, but because he has won a victory for all honest men over the thieves, swindlers, and sharpshooters who think they can get away with it. Such a case is the one I'm now going to tell you about in my role as Chief of the Intelligence Division of the Internal Revenue Service. Treasury File 7191, Internal Revenue Service. The case of the chartered Chiseler.
Well, let's see, I gave you the new schedule on those buses to the Army Induction Center. And we've got 4 trips next week to Mount Gilpin for the hotel. Well, that takes us to the middle of the month, doesn't it?
Yes. What about Mrs. Eustace?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Eustace and those monsters she's taking to camp. Well, I think I can squeeze Crawford in on that run. I'll take him off the sightseeing tour for that day and use Hobart.
Do you have to?
What do you mean?
Why do you always switch Crawford's schedules around so we can drive for Mrs. Eustace? I notice you do it for all the other women's organizations, too.
He's our best driver, kid. He knows how to handle those old biddies. Besides, they always ask for him.
Oh, I see.
This, Crawford's a pretty handsome guy. He's got a way with the women. You know him?
Yes, I know him. I've seen him once or twice.
You've been out with him, too, haven't you, Louise?
Yes, I've been out with him.
What's the matter with me, baby? Why do you always have to turn me down on dates and go out with that guy? 15 times I have to ask you to go to dinner with me or go to a show or... There you go again. Every time I get close to you, you run away from me. What for? What are you afraid of? I used to have secretaries that'd give the world to be on the good side of the boss. Well, what makes you so different?
I'd better get these letters off, Mr. Malone.
No, wait a minute. I don't like to talk to you like this, Louise. I want to do nice things for you. I want to take you out to nice places. I want to spend money on you, maybe put a ring on your finger. I'm that nuts about you.
Don't ever do that to me, Mr. Lamont. Don't you ever put your hands on me again.
I'm sorry, baby. I couldn't help it.
Well, yes, I agree that for a man who owns a fleet of charter buses, Malone appears to be reporting a relatively small income. And yet there's nothing in his returns that looks particularly suspicious to me. What caught your eye, Logan? Sit down.
His deductions for charity, Chief. In every case, his contributions were directly connected with his business dealings. If he contributed to a church, that very same church used his buses. If it was a woman's charitable organization, well, they chartered his buses, too.
Well, there's nothing very unusual about that, Logan. He'd have reason to contribute money to organizations which patronized him.
Yes, be good business, I suppose, but if a man gives almost $1,600 a year to charity, don't you think it's strange that he doesn't contribute 1 cent to the Red Cross or some other organization that he doesn't directly do business with? I mean, if a man is that charitable, wouldn't it show up someplace else?
Yes, I think maybe you've got something there, Logan. All right. Go ahead on a preliminary investigation.
Right, Chief.
In order to determine whether or not Ed Malone had been making more money than he reported on his income tax returns, Agent Logan began a preliminary investigation of Malone's standard of living, the type of house he owned, the clubs he belonged to, the restaurants he frequented, and the sort of purchases he made in local stores. Apparently, Malone lived a rather modest life, having a charge account in only one department store in town and using it only occasionally. However, there was a charge account in this very same store for a man who had given Malone as a credit reference. And this account was used quite frequently for a number of expensive purchases. Oddly enough, the man who maintained this account was a bus driver who worked for Malone, a man named Crawford, John Crawford.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you, Johnny. But
You don't have to count it out for me. I know how much Mrs. Eustace paid you. Just put it in with the rest of the receipts and make a deposit for me in the morning.
Right.
Oh, one more thing, Johnny. I think I've mentioned this to you before, about Louise.
What about her?
She ain't right for you, kid. Stay away from her.
What do you mean?
Now, look. There ain't two dames in my whole life that I've ever felt this way about before. And I don't want no competition.
Well, I don't know.
Now, don't give me any argument, Johnny. Stay away from her. The way I figure it, she's kind of sweet on you. And if you keep out of the picture, I can move in easily.
But, Mr. Malone...
I told you I don't want no argument. Now, don't get me mad.
Maybe I like this girl. Maybe I'm kind of sweet on her myself.
I don't care what you are. What I say goes. Don't it, Johnny? Don't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Honey, I told you not to meet me here. Do you want somebody to see us?
I don't know what I want.
What's the matter?
What isn't the matter? Do you know what it's like to be in an office all day long with a man like Malone? Why can't we just tell him that we're in love with each other and we want to be married?
He wouldn't like it. He'd go through the ceiling if he knew we were going around with each other.
Then let him. What difference does it make how mad he gets? We don't have to suit him, Johnny. Remember, you're just working for the man. You're not his slave. All he can do is fire you.
I wouldn't like him to fire me. I need the work.
Oh, Johnny, you can get another job. We both can. Then we don't have to put up with all this. How do you suppose I feel? Meeting you on the sly all the time. Pretending I don't know you in the office. Sneaking outside to call you up. I love you, Johnny. I love you.
You think I can go on like this? We just have to mark time for a little while. Then we'll save enough and we'll get married. Then we'll walk on out alone whether he likes it or not.
Well, why can't we do that now?
Well, because he pays good money and nobody else in this town would pay me the dough I get from him.
Is that the only reason you want to stay?
Of course. What other reason could there be?
In an effort to approximate the gross income of Malone's chartered bus service, Agent Logan checked with all the sources of income listed on Malone's tax returns. The clubs, the schools, and particularly the men's and women's organizations with which he did the bulk of his business. By investigating these organizations, Logan learned that, oddly enough, in a great many instances, Malone's drivers were paid in cash.
We always pay in cash. Mr. Malone gives us a discount for paying in cash.
A rough estimate of Mr. Malone's gross income revealed that over a period of 3 years, he had reported some $200,000 less than he actually took in. It was then that we decided to make a full investigation.
Louise, Tell Johnny Crawford I want to see him. I'll wait right here for him.
Yes, sir. But why, Johnny? Why haven't you been to see me? It's been almost a week and we haven't even had a date.
Well, I was out of town for 2 days and...
And what?
Honey, don't pin me down like that. I just couldn't make it, that's all.
Don't you love me anymore, Johnny? Is that what you're trying to do, let me down easy?
Of course not. It's just taking too much of a chance. If he should see us going around together,
Maybe you want to break off for a while. Is that what you want?
I didn't say I wanted to break off. You know I love you.
Johnny! Johnny! I told Louise I wanted to see you.
Yes, sir,
Now, Johnny.
Yes, sir. I'm coming.
Well, no, not at all, Mr. Logan. I don't mind you going over my books, but going over my books is one thing. Spending 2-3 days, after all.
I'm sorry it's taking so long, Mr. Malone.
But what's up? I always file my returns and pay my taxes.
Yes, certainly. Well, I guess that'll be all for today.
But you haven't answered my question. Look, I've been a pretty decent guy about all this. I got a right to know.
You'll know, Mr. Malone.
But if I've made any mistakes, I'd like to correct them.
What mistakes would you like to correct, Mr. Malone?
Well,
These books have all been audited, haven't they?
sure, but maybe I've left out an item someplace, or maybe a couple of items, you know.
Like what? You've reported everything on your tax returns, haven't you?
Well, certainly I have.
Well, then there's nothing to worry about. Goodbye, Mr. Malone. I'll be back in the morning.
Louise, come in here a minute, will you? Has that Treasury guy been asking any questions about me?
No, sir.
Has he said anything about my cash account or my books or anything like that?
No, sir.
Well, what are you staring at? You think I've done something wrong? And if I did, do you think they could catch me?
I don't think anything, Mr. Malone. I mind my own business.
Howdy, girl. You keep doing that, while these Treasury men are around, everything will be hunky-dory. Now, how about going out to dinner with me tonight? We'll have the thickest, juiciest steak and mushrooms this side of Kansas City. We'll go all the way up to Stockton,
Please
huh?
let me go.
Oh, don't be like that, honey. I don't see why you can't be a little nice to a guy once in a while. You could write your own ticket with me if you'd be a little nice.
Nice? What do you know about being nice? You never did anything kind or decent for anybody in your whole life.
Maybe I'm about to change.
And that'll be refreshing. And maybe you'll let me alone. Why don't you leave Johnny alone, too? What are you trying to do to him? Why are you trying to break us up?
Ah, forget Johnny Crawford, honey. He can't do nothing for you, not the way I can. He's just a two-bit punk I picked up from off the street and made a driver out of. I could step on him like a bug.
And what could he do to you?
Are you kidding?
You're using him, aren't you? Every time there's a cash collection, you use Johnny. There must be some reason for it.
Look, you told me you was minding your own business.
This is my business. Anything to do with Johnny is my business. If he wasn't doing something crooked for you, he wouldn't be so afraid of you.
Louise, this kind of talk's going to get you into trouble. You've got to learn to keep your mouth shut.
So you can keep on with your crooked schemes? So you can keep Johnny from trying to see
Shut
me?
up, you little dope. I ain't got no crooked schemes, and don't you run around saying I have.
Please, you're hurting my arm.
All right. Keep your trap shut.
I warn you, Louise. I can make a lot of trouble for Johnny Crawford if I want to.
If you don't behave yourself, believe me, I will.
But I had to, Johnny. I had to see you. Malone can't keep me from coming to your apartment.
You don't know him, Louise. You don't know what he can do.
What can he do that he hasn't done already?
But you shouldn't have talked to him that way. You shouldn't have said what you did about me. That'll only make things worse.
But why, Johnny? Why? You've got to tell me once and for all why you're so afraid of it.
Honey, don't you think I would if I thought it would do any good? You can't take back something you're sorry for, something that's already been done.
But what's been done, Johnny? Oh, look, darling. When you love a girl, When you ask her to marry you, she has to know what you are, what's inside of you. Otherwise, the marriage doesn't mean anything. A part of you isn't in it. Johnny, what have you done?
How can I tell you? How can I say it?
Is it that bad, honey?
Louise, I killed a man. 6 years ago, I killed a man, a drunk on the state highway. I ran over him and I kept right on going.
You didn't report it to the police?
No. I was so scared, I kept telling myself I couldn't do him any good. I didn't want to get mixed up in it. They might find out about the car and Malone might put me in jail.
Malone?
Yeah, it was his car. I borrowed it one night without his knowing it. The worst part of it is he found out anyway. Caught me driving it into the garage. But he didn't put me in jail. Told me to keep my mouth shut and he'd take care of me.
From that time on, you've had to do everything he told you to do.
Unless I wanted to go to the jail. It was like being on a string. All he had to do was open his mouth and I'd do what he said. Sorry I told you now.
Oh, no, Johnny. I'm not sorry you told me. Just sorry for you.
Discrepancies. All sorts of discrepancies, Chief. Even in the accounts with his regular customers. Cash receipts improperly reported, or not reported at all. Items listed on his customers' books which don't even appear in his records.
But they're all cash transactions.
That's his game. To deliberately get these organizations to pay in cash so that there wouldn't be any checks or receipted bills that we could use as evidence.
Well, if he's been making all this money, Logan, what has he been doing with it? Putting it in a hiding place?
Possibly. It's also possible that he's been spending some of it through this driver of his, this Crawford fellow. For one thing, Crawford has paid for quite a number of stock purchases which Malone made at a brokerage house.
I see. What about those out-of-town banks that you've had Anderson investigating? Any accounts show up in Malone's name or Crawford's?
No, but Anderson has found two rather large depositors who gave Malone as a reference.
Oh?
Now, it could be that these depositors have been using fictitious names. And it could be that they'll all turn out to be Crawford. At any rate, we're working on that angle.
All right, Logan, keep at it. And if there's anything you need from me, just let me know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, don't tell me you can't do it. I'm telling you, it's got to be done. There's too much going on around here. Too many questions being asked. That Treasury guy is onto something. He's getting closer to the answer every minute.
Even so, I still don't see why
I'm not asking you to see. I'm telling you to close out those 2 bank accounts in Jefferson County and bring me the cash. You'll need some of it to get away.
But why do I have to go? If I run away and this thing breaks wide open, they'll think that I've been stealing from you, taking the cash receipts and banking them under a phony name.
That's the way I want it to look. If the house caves in, I got to be in the clear.
But what about me? If they catch up with me, I'll never get out of jail.
Now, quit worrying, will you? They ain't going to catch up with you no more than they did the other time. That hit-and-run deal worked out okay, didn't it?
Did it? You call living like this okay?
Oh, don't try to be so smart. You didn't have much choice about the way you were going to live after you ran over that guy in my car. If you want me to tell the cops about that, just say so. I can still make you take the rap for it.
Yeah? Well, maybe I can make you take the rap for a few things, too. With the Treasury. You want to try it? You want to go to jail for sure? Or do you want to play it smart? Get out of town for a while till this thing blows over. Which is it, Crawford? 5, 10 years in jail? Or a chance to walk away from it? Come on, make up your mind. Okay, Malone. I'll go tonight.
Now you're talking.
That's right, Chief. We tailed Crawford going into both of those Jefferson County banks, and he closed out both of the accounts. No, sir, there's no question about it. We have samples of the handwriting. Yes, sir, I'll do that right away.
You can't do it, Johnny. I'm not going to let you throw your whole life away.
It doesn't matter. My life isn't worth much anyway. If you were really for me, you wouldn't be standing around telling me not to go. You'd come with me.
And help you run away from something you can't ever run away from. Don't you know what it would be like? Haven't you had 6 years of it?
But this time it'd be different. We'd be together. We'd be married.
Married to what? A prison term hanging over your head? Cops and Treasury men following you all over, moving from town to town to get rid of him? And from Malone, too?
Well, what else is there to do?
What you should have done in the first place, what you still have to do.
Give myself up?
Johnny, look, you do something wrong, you have to pay for it. Then you can start all over again, all fresh and new, with a chance of making a decent life for yourself.
Sure. It's easy to say, but what's it like to do? What's it like to be in jail for 5 years? 5 years. You say it in a second. 5 years. But living it every day, every minute.
It's the only way, Johnny. I'd be living it too, waiting for you.
You would wait? You'd be there when I got out?
I'd be your wife, Johnny. Where else could I be?
I wasn't such a coward. If I could just...
Do it, honey. Tell him. Call him on the phone right now and tell him it's your only chance. Then you'll be rid of it once and for all, and you wouldn't ever have to be afraid again.
All right. All right, I'll call him. I'll call him right from here.
Hiya, Johnny. Well, Louise.
What do you want, Malone?
I just dropped by. See how you're getting along. The train leaves in about an hour. Thought I'd drive you down to the station.
I don't think he's going, Mr. Malone.
No? Well, I didn't think I'd have much trouble persuading him, but if there's going to be any argument, I think I can settle that, too.
He's not going, Mr. Malone. And you're not going to make him. Is he, Johnny? Tell him, Johnny.
Come on, pick up your bags, kid. Come on.
No.
You're wasting time.
No, I'm doing it right. For the first time in 6 years, I'm doing it right.
Look, Crawford, you're not talking to me. You're talking to a gun.
You've had a gun at my head for 6 years. For 6 years, you've been whipping me with it. Scaring me. Making a nothing out of me because I was afraid you'd pull the trigger. Now I don't care anymore. Go ahead and pull it. Go ahead, Malone. You want to kill me? Go ahead and kill me. Well, why did you do it? Why are you so scared? What are you so nervous about?
Who's at the door? Who's there? Special Agent Logan, Internal Revenue Service. Crawford, I'm still waiting. I want to talk with you.
I'm coming. I got a lot to tell you, mister. A lot to tell you.
All right, Crawford. You can start right from the beginning.
After confessing to being the hit-and-run driver who had killed a man some 6 years before, Johnny Crawford pleaded guilty to a charge of second-degree manslaughter and was sentenced to the state penitentiary for a term of 2 to 5 years. He was also convicted by a federal court for aiding Edward Malone in deliberately attempting to evade the payment of income taxes. However, because he testified for the government, he was given a suspended sentence by the court. As for Malone, who was convicted of income tax evasion on 6 counts and sentenced to the federal penitentiary for 7 years, an ironic ending was written to his story. He was taken to the penitentiary from the United States Marshal's office in one of his own chartered buses.